keep on running. I keep on running. I keep on running. Running. Non-stop till they out of breath. Putting in about 1,000 reps. Addicted to the grind like a pound of meth. Schneider-Weiler, how I climb the best.
Welcome to the Football Autobiography Show. It is such a pleasure to be with you all today, wherever in the world you are listening. The Football Autobiography Show is dedicated to taking you on a football journey with football's most interesting players, coaches, trainers, staff, and journalists. Think of these as mini football autobiographies. Each guest will show you how they got where they are now, reveal their techniques for success, and what they've learned along the way.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all doing well today. I know I am. I am recording this intro from the rainy and foggy Isle of Skye in Scotland. Our guest today is one of the best photographers covering football, Mark Leech. Leech has been capturing football moments for more than 40 years. He started working for himself in 1977 and, having kept most of his archived images, formed his own photography company called Offside in 2001. In 2012, he was awarded the Barclays Photographer of the first 20 seasons for his work in the Premier League, and he has covered some of the most legendary games in the FA Cup, World Cup, and Champions League. In our episode, Leech reminisces and discusses the worrying trends he sees in sports photography, his memories of England versus Argentina in the 1998 World Cup, witnessing the horrifying scenes in Heysel in 1985, how sports photographers operated 40 years ago, his keys to capturing a goal, and being on the field with Hooligans in the 1980 Scottish Cup final with Celtic and Rangers. Without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Mark Leech. All right, I'm here with Mark Leech, photographer at Offside. How you doing?
I'm all good. Looking forward to this, yeah.
Yeah, so we've been talking a lot about photography before this interview started, but I want to ask you, I saw in an interview you said, a great picture doesn't tell you what a guy looks like. It tells you who he is. Can you explain what you mean by this?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to take the credit for that. I read it somewhere and it inspired me. It's probably come from a Magnum photographer, but it's just shows you a bit more about his character. I think it's possibly going back to the picture of Richard Nixon walking down, I think it was in Brussels, and he was just doing the handshake for the crowd, and he was looking at his watch as he shook hands with the guys as if to say, I've got to do this, but really I'd rather be elsewhere. Maybe harsh, maybe the camera lied, but I think that's got Nixon for me in one, and you can't always get a picture like that, but I think if you just go, say, in my experience, and see Alex Ferguson hovering around a dugout before the match, and he probably put his best PR face on. If he's smiling, shaking hands with the other manager, you haven't really got to Alex Ferguson there. If you're in a dugout at Kenilworth Road in the 80s and United aren't really doing well under his managership and he doesn't like you being there, and he's, then you've got Alex Ferguson, I think. So I think that's a difference from my perspective, getting the guy, not the shot he wants, him at work, as it were, yeah.
Yeah, so the genuine, get the person behind you. So you have to understand the context.
Yeah, just see, we can all put on a smiley face for a picture. I think somebody said it was wonderful the other day. They were on holiday and seeing a couple having a row, and they're not happy, but then their food comes up and they do the big selfie with a big smile and go back to their, that's the picture for Facebook, but they'll go back to their argument. So there's the picture of where they were, but it's not, people say the camera never lies. It can do, and does quite often when PR people get involved to set the shot up. So I just think something a bit more genuine, and I wouldn't say someone. I get annoyed. Here I go. People talk about football and they use a constant picture of a guy celebrating a goal. It could be 3-0 up against Chesterfield in the League Cup and he gets the fourth. He'll pull this same face. That's not telling you anything about the guy. Or it's not telling you about why he's paid so much, what he does. It's not showing his balance, his technique, his ability to screen the ball or anything. It's just down to that face, mildly, with a stupid grin. Or if they start doing any of these, you can't see what I'm doing on the radio, but start pulling some preconceived, gurning, or do stuff with their fingers, make heart shapes. That's really... I didn't think I'd get onto this rant this early, but here you go.
So I was curious, if I were to try to capture Mark Leech as a child, what would you be doing, and where would you be doing it?
I think first thing come along in my life that wasn't mum, dad, family, pets, was the Beatles. They drove me... I won't hang about what is happening here, and it still gets me. I'm going to get goose now hearing John Lennon's voice, and I remember when he died, it just got me then. I just heard it, and it was all my childhood. But then when I was about 9, I realised this: England won the World Cup in 1966, and it wasn't until I looked back I bought 6 Beatles albums, and then I didn't buy another one after that. All my money was spent trying to get to football matches, and you get these partisan supporters they probably wouldn't understand, but I went with a friend's brother to watch West Ham versus Leicester because Gordon Banks was in goal for Leicester and Moorhurst Peters of West Ham. I'd just try and see these players that I'd seen on TV, and everything went towards football from then on. And my dad, I don't think I was a good artist. My dad would like to think that it was all those hours I spent, when TV shut down in the afternoons. I just draw football pictures, and I think one day, the cop obviously was the combination of the Beatles and football, and when they were singing "She Loves You" or "I Want to Hold Your Hand," I thought this, and documentaries went to do things on, middle class people wouldn't understand what was going on. Guys in their donkey jackets straight off the docks, some guys in suits have been clerks in the morning. But I said to my dad, how many people on the COP? How many? He said, 24,000 or something. So I'd 1, 2, 3, try and draw these heads on a massive picture. And he looked at, with relief, as if that would keep him quiet. And, that I didn't keep any of these, but they're no loss. They weren't. I wasn't a great artist. My photography, I don't think, came from there. It came from just the love of football, really.
So was photography big in your house? Did you take a lot of photos, or your parents?
Not at all. We probably upgraded to a camera that would take a colour film, and we probably went on a fortnight's holiday in a caravan somewhere in England where it was raining, with a 12 exposure roll in the camera, and me and my brother were at pains not to touch that. And my dad probably took about, I think he took 10, and then we came home, and I think he took one of my Sunday morning football team in about 1969-70 on the pitch, which I treasure now. But that was probably first game of the season for us, which finished off that roll. They'd send it off to get processed. So, that's as much photography as happened in our family. I didn't own a camera until I was actually working in photography.
That's crazy to think of, now, because literally everyone, that you meet on the street has one.
Sure,
and so,
sure. And you look at pictures of crowds. There's one person maybe in a big crowd shot with a camera. It wasn't done. You wouldn't go to, you'd get crushed on the terrace. You could just about, you wanted to keep your match program, free from crumples. That was a job. You wouldn't start bringing other things in. But a friend of mine, his brother, went to such a low-profile match, Arsenal v Blackpool, I think, in the FA Cup about 1970, and he just took some pictures on the terrace, and he just, I don't know, I remember him bringing them to school, and I remember going back to his house, saying, can I see those again? And he said, no, they're not that good, and I just couldn't believe it. Just something about them that I thought was special, but obviously it was a few years before I got into the business, but I do remember that moment thinking, wow, can actually record that day at the football, like everyone does every minute of their life now. But it seemed I haven't got one picture from me going to a match as a fan from the first 15 years I was going watching. There's you go and watch the match. You wouldn't go to photograph yourself at the match or the players. You'd leave that to the press photographers.
And so how did you end up getting into photography?
Well, I mean, my chosen path career wasn't that different. I wrote off for a job, trainee sports reporter with an agency, and they wanted 5 O-levels, which was a basic exam you took when you're about 15, 16 years old. And I took about 7, thought I'd easily get 5. And that summer, I kind of got the letter through, and I got 2 out of the 7. And, parents weren't too happy. They had high hopes for me doing something. And I'd said I was leaving school and just too proud to go back and retake them. I had friends who goofed off. We were doing other things, and they retook them. I was just too proud, and I found a dead-end job which I jacked in no time, and I was out of work. And I thought, no, I saw this guy who was out of work, and I just didn't want to be like him. And I went up to London. We lived outside in Essex, and just went to what was a recruitment, they call them now, just a job bureau, they called them then. And they said, what are you interested in? I said, football. And the guy pulled a drawer out and said, well, nothing here. I'll let you know if anything comes in. He rang me 2 days later and went, I don't believe this. He says, trainee sports photographer. I've never seen anything like this come through here. And I thought, I'll go down for the interview. And I was walking around, and I couldn't believe in central London, in this bit of London, in Holborn, how many camera shops there were. I'd never seen cameras, and I thought, what's this Nikon and all this? I thought, I'll tell them I've got one of those. I'll have forgotten the names of the cameras when I got there, so I didn't lie. I just said, no, but I think on my knowledge of football and how keen I was to do it, they must have got me the job.
I'm curious, what was the dead-end job that was short-lived?
Well, I was working in the summer holidays in I thought it was cool. It was called labourer. And I thought, look at that on my work ticket, labourer. And I thought, I can go to the Arsenal match in my dirty clothes and stand on the North Bank and look like one of the lads. But they just got me to do, things you wouldn't do now. I was cleaning cement off plant that came in off building sites and had to repaint it. And we got a pint of milk every day free, because that would keep the lead of the paint out of your lungs, they reckon. But I got cement in my eye one day, and they just didn't want to know. They said, goggles were there for your protection. I said, nobody offered me goggles, and they just covered it all up. And I was there really, I was lucky it didn't go across the iris. It was just lime burning my eye. And so I got out of that, and my mum said, there's an engineering apprenticeship. Now, this town had lots of light engineering. And we went on the first few days for a talk about health and safety, and the guy said, if you don't do it and your arm gets caught in the rollers and you've got to go to court with one arm, if you don't like the sound of that, get out now. And I said, goodbye. I was gone, and everyone else, the lads, were a bit too macho. I'm not scared, but I thought it doesn't really appeal, that, no.
Yeah, I like both of my arms. I'll keep them.
It might, I've probably given up wanting to be a goalie then, but one arm definitely wouldn't have done it, no.
So when you first got that trainee as a photographer, what were your initial struggles, and how did you kind of get your foot in the door in terms of?
Well, the struggles were, I just joined them in late October, and in England that's when the clocks go back. You're plunged into winter, and you're just in a room with no ventilation, just stinking of chemicals, and then you've got a massive ice cold sink that I had to stir the prints. They washed the chemicals off. I had to stir them in this cold sink and then put them on a hot drum, which was called a glazing machine, and that was basically it. Mix the chemicals up in the morning and then glaze all these prints that the darkroom printers were doing, and the photographers are running. I thought they were really glamorous, but they come in and they put their camera down the side, and I didn't know what any of it was, 2.8, 4, 5, 6, and the Nikon there had all different colours, and I thought, ooh, I like this, and top was 125, 250, 500, what is that? Hey, excuse me, Joe, can you show me what this is? Not now, boy. And he's like, to be graphic, this photographer said, I've been on the motorway all day, I'm baking one, I've got to go to the toilet. And I thought, okay. And then he's going to grab a cup of tea, then he's off down the pub. So you just tried to grab minutes with these guys to explain what these cameras were about. And that was, you knew they wouldn't be happy or patient, but you just had to keep asking about printing techniques in the darkroom. And I probably got to that So that was late October. Probably that Christmas, I got myself like a pretty cheap camera, £20, £25 Russian camera, and thought I'd give this a go. How difficult can it be?
And so you started going to get matches?
Yeah, I'd be there. Those days you had a photographer and obviously no transmitting, and I'd have to go after 20 minutes sometimes and take his film back into the darkroom and get it developed, and then we'd get it printed and then run it round Fleet Street to the newspaper desks. So I'd snuck a camera in sometimes and just shoot.
Okay, so you weren't going like accredited or like...
Well, no, there'd be messengers pass, but I'd sit, some photographers didn't see me as a threat, laugh at my camera and go, yeah, good luck with that, son. And others would be probably thinking, no, you're just a messenger, you sit behind me. And I can remember going to a match at Arsenal playing Aston Villa in the FA Cup. And Villa were in the 3rd division then. And nobody was doing Aston Villa attack, so I went and sat up there. And they scored. And I ran down the other top and said, I've got the goal. He said, just wait, I haven't got anything yet. And he sent me off with his film and I developed it. And it's a technique I don't think I could ever do again now. As the guy shot, I actually panned the ball. I'd love to find this negative. It was the whole of Highbury blurred with this sharp ball. And the guy said, where was your goal picture? I went, no, I didn't. No. And he looked at it and he was just roaring with laughter. Not maliciously, just he thought it was the funniest picture he'd ever seen. And I thought, okay, I've got to stop these guys laughing at my work. I've got to stop this. How do I do it? And
So what did you change?
I just thought, probably one of these guys in the week when it was a bit quiet, I had a chat and said, you've got to, we're shooting stills. Think of that word, stills. You've got to have the camera still when it happens. Then you move for the next frame if there is another frame. There was no motor drive. It was click, wind on, click. So you had to get it right. And I think it was, so it wasn't that long. It was probably about early February. I went to a night match and Tottenham were playing Birmingham City. And, Martin Chivers scored a goal past Gary Sprake, the Birmingham goalie. And, I didn't know I got it, but when we went back developed it, it was a nice goal picture. But the other photographer hadn't got any goals and he left it later and later. And I said to him, I think I got that. And he developed it and we took it round Fleet Street. But someone who got not as good a picture got it in earlier. And my boss he wasn't interested at all. He said, I heard you took a roll of 20 exposure film out last night.
Yeah, and so these were the days when it was more important to get it first.
Yes, well, it was a combination. If you'd, they got I'm not saying it was a shocking picture, but a slightly inferior version would go in because they weren't getting them in their hundreds from matches. Tottenham won 3-1 or whatever, and they wanted a goal picture. And the first goal hadn't made a good picture. The second goal did, and the third one did as well, I think. But I noticed the photographer who got the second goal, he was gone. He worked independently. He was gone with that. And I was already thinking, because this was my training, was all about get the film off the photographer and go and get it round. So
so you didn't even have to go to the whole match. It was, you could just go for 20 minutes.
That was the thing for me to go. I don't understand people now leaving matches before the end. I'd never, ever, ever left a match before the end. I didn't see the point. I'd never leave before the end.
But as a photographer, it sounds like you had to.
Well, I went on my first match. This agency was Arsenal versus Liverpool. A match you pick out on the calendar as one you want to watch. And after 20 minutes, the photographer says to me, there you go, 20 minutes. And to come out in November and all the litter was blowing down the street. There's a few ticket touts outside and a few strange people and the noise of the crowd. I just felt, I can't do this. I'm outside Highbury with a match going on. Arsenal, Liverpool, I'm outside. And, they're not paying me £12 a week. It's not enough, and I really felt that was a horrible moment. But probably going back and getting the film processed and getting one of those pictures that I'd helped to print and take round and seeing it on the back page of a paper, I felt somehow involved with a different process. And it really did help that season 73-74, the Arsenal team were on the skids. They were going downhill fast, so they weren't they made it easier for me to progress into photography, without a doubt.
Yeah, it was easier for you to leave. But I'm curious, once you were told to leave and give it to the papers, when you say give it to the papers, I mean, do they just have obviously all of their offices aren't right next to the ground.
No. We were in, so that's Arsenal. We go to Arsenal Tube Station. I go to Holborn Tube Station, only a few stops, run to the office, which was at Holborn in central London. And from there, it's if someone had a car around, but it's only a 10-minute jog down to Fleet Street, where the Express, the Telegraph, the Mail and the Sun, News of the World were very close. The Guardian, I think, was out on a limb, and the Observer was slightly different places, but they were all in this one area.
Okay.
And it was amazing, because the newsprint, the paper would be arriving on massive trucks being unloaded. Earlier in the day, then the vans would be going out with the first editions of the newspapers. It'd just be, and smell of the ink and the printing works, the heat coming off them, and you'd run in. And they say, take it to the picture desk. But our boss said, never go there. Come up the back way. Go to the sports desk. Save time, because somebody might drop it on the picture desk and something might happen. They'll be slow to move it. Get it straight to the sports desk. Yeah. And you'd run in and you'd drop it, and somebody'd have their lunch and they'd move their plate of chips and beans away and cigarette ashtray there and go. And they'd look at the back of the picture and say, they wouldn't even say thank you. It's like they're falling in from the sky, these pictures. These guys were busy. And if you came in with something, their eyes lit up. It wasn't what they wanted. Is that all you've got? It wasn't. There was nothing there. But they were busy guys, and I didn't get emotional about that. I just dropped it in and off I went.
Early on, you mentioned that experience, the Arsenal Aston Villa game, where you panned the photo of the ball. Are there any other experiences that, now that you look back early on, you can laugh at, that were slightly embarrassing, or now you're just, it's...
Well, one of them to laugh at. I remember going to England-Argentina match, and I just felt like I was arriving, and I think I got a goal picture. My boss, who blew hot and cold, but he was a very good photographer.
Wait, is this the 1998?
No.
Okay.
No, this is a friendly in 1975 at Wembley, when you'd go on the pitch and... Emlyn Hughes, England captain, starting something with some real, tough old Argentinian boys, and one of them punched him, and Emlyn Hughes was holding his face, and my boss said, "Come on, let's go." And I was at the other end, said, "What you got?" He said, "Hughes, the guy punched Hughes, I've got him." And he gave me his camera, and I said, "Have you wound the film in?" He said, "Just take it out, open the back." And he hadn't wound it. He didn't really describe it properly, and that, split second, shut the back, but I'd fogged, the light had got on these pictures and ruined his big moment, this Emlyn Hughes picture. That was a shocker. Still gets me now. I'm not laughing at it now. No, but sorry, you did ask me for humorous things, but that's something that my mind goes back to. But no, the 98 World Cup, that was, it's funny that does tie in, because Beckham took a free kick against Colombia, and I was up high, like on a TV elevated position. And he had a free kick, and I thought, just about get him, the wall, and the goal in on this lens. I didn't have a zoom, and I thought, why not just pan the ball as it goes? And I thought, I'll do this, thinking of that picture. I wonder what it looked like. Could be really arty, but something in me wouldn't let me pan it. I just had to hold the camera still. I mean, it's a nice shot, but I just kind of. It's funny that something must have been. You've lost something. A bit of innocence has gone, and I just, as a probably, after 20 years experience, I couldn't do that. Yeah. But that was in Lens, and down at Saint-Etienne, the next England game, I was in the same position, and Beckham was right underneath me with Simeone. And it was big news, but it was, typical, I don't know, upset all your Argentinian listeners. But no, I kind of admire their play to win at all costs attitude. I was at Arsenal versus Seville in that Emirates Cup, and just the Argentinian boys playing for Seville there, they got something that's just, well, if you're going to get onto football, I think Arsenal need right now, they need some of that. They're just too nice the way they play football. I really it's funny, because that picture, Batistuta is actually looking at Simeone as if, I don't believe you've done that. as if Batistuta's like wants to be the good guy there. And no, it was harsh decision, I think.
Yeah. So was that World Cup game in 1998 between Argentina and England the best match you've ever been to, or if not,
Most
what was the
exhausting match? Because hey, there's nurses working, there's people digging coal, there's me taking a few pictures of football game, but I couldn't be at the wrong end. I was covering it for one photographer on my own, and I thought I'll shoot overview, and Michael Owen scored, and everyone I must have cheered as he'd scored the goal, and people coming out and saying, who's this guy? They didn't know who he was. Walked through the Argentinian defence and smashed one in from 25 yards. And I was feeling, then they equalised just before half time. Then I got a frame of Sol Campbell, what I thought was heading the winning goal, and all the England team were down on the touchline celebrating, and I looked at my corner of my left eye. I thought, what? Been disallowed, and Argentina taking that free kick. They were flying up the other end, and it was end to end. And I kind of know what's going to happen when we get penalties, but there was more pictures to see after that. And David Batty, he'd missed the penalty, and you think commercially, you think, is he really going to be the guy around this? But Michael Owen came off with Steve McManaman arm around him, crying. And it kind of got me very emotional, that game. And then first time I just hired a mobile phone for the tournament, never had a cell phone. And I don't know why, I thought I need some sympathy here, and I'll phone home, thinking I'll speak to my wife. What good she could have done me, but my 6-year-old daughter answered the phone and went, does that mean we're out of the World Cup now, Dad? I thought, oh my God, this isn't helping. And then I came out, and Kevin Keegan, who was, I think, possibly Newcastle coach, and he wasn't involved with England at the time, an Argentinian camera crew had got to Kevin because he spoke with the Spanish. And my way was blocked. I couldn't get out, so I was listening. And halfway through it, he just broke down and said, sorry guys, I can't do this anymore. And I kind of put my arm around him, said, good on you, look at me now. But no, it was very, very emotional. And I don't know, I think there was still a time when you think England could do it. They can't get to me now, their last few performances. I'm not going to be like that again. But maybe because it's someone I'd known as a kid. Glenn Hoddle was the coach. I kind of felt some faith in him, he could do it. And with Beckham, you'd have given him a chance in that game without a doubt, with 11v11. But no, that was, and what I did was I threw away, edited out the frames when Argentina were running down the pitch with the ball. I wasn't thinking, I wasn't even focusing. I was still had the focus down. I was looking down to my right and kind of firing it. And I threw all those away. I wished I'd kept them in a way now to show, look at my mental state at that point. It was that was probably for me the best combination of enjoying my photography and enjoying an England performance would be at that World Cup.
Did you ever encounter similar problems when you were rooting for Arsenal and you had to take pictures of their matches too? Or?
Oh, I'm a master at getting the wrong moments. Yeah, the disaster. I mean, I was in Paris in '95 when they played Zaragoza in the European Couplers Cup final, and it went to extra time, and I just kind of, I don't know, probably a lot of energy had gone, and I thought I'll just stay this end, and I thought I'm not going to shoot it conventionally. I will sit behind the net with a standard 50mm lens and get the goal picture whichever way. And Naeem shot from the halfway line, and I was just there I'm just doing a no as David Seaman backpedaled and the ball came over his head, that famous 50-yard goal, and he ended up in the net in front of me, and I just kept shooting and thought I've done the other side. I've seen the glory, a strange way, Arsenal, if you take the 70s, 80s, 90s for me and into the early last days at Highbury, they give you enough highs, and those, I can't say they owe me nothing. They owe me nothing. So to be there at that time doesn't hurt me to talk about that now, because I've seen, I was at Anfield in 1989 when they beat Liverpool, that last minute goal by Michael Thomas. So I think if you've seen that as a kid, I saw them at White Hart Lane win the league in 1971. And 79 Cup final was an amazing comeback against Manchester United. And then they go and lose the next year to West Ham. I think the highs and lows are what I love. I think football fans really love that. They like a bit of pain. But that's probably why there's so much protests at Arsenal now, because this flatlining of, Champions League 20 years. But, the last 5 years of getting third, fourth place. It was just, there's no highs and lows with it. It's just so predictable in Arsenal season now. And I think that's it's hard to get behind anything like that. Leicester come out from Championship and win the league and look like they were going out of it again. That must be an amazing ride for a fan. I mean, I bet a few thought, go down, and we can win that one next season. Enjoy the highs and lows. I don't think staying in the Premiership for the sake of it is any fan's dream, really. But no, I think there's been other times I've been Arsenal. One of my best goal pictures ever was at Highbury in the Champions League. Was it the quarterfinal against Chelsea? And Wayne Bridge, he just shot, and Lehmann kind of did the split, stretching to get the ball, the Arsenal goalie, and Ashley Cole was already holding his head in his hands. It nestled in the net, just came to me in slow motion, frame after frame after frame, bang, bang, bang. One of the best goal pictures, compositions ever. But you knew then Arsenal were 2-1 down. There was no coming back with the away goal that late, and it was it was painful. What do you do? Where's your emotions? But it was the professional pride gets you. Really, I couldn't clear that one off the line. All I could do was compose it, focus it, and get it as good as that. I don't think you can ask yourself to do more.
And so on the day of a game, what is your schedule? Take me through a normal Saturday or
normal Saturday. Get up, feed the cats because nobody else is up. Then my boy will probably want to go and play tennis or something, or no, he's going to cricket, or his mate's coming round. Or time I've run people around and pretended I'm a normal parent and a human being. It's suddenly time to look in the camera bag and see, did I lend that to them? I better use this one then. That one's not charged up. That's not too far from the truth. It's a bit of a shambles. And I'll get to a stadium with, I left my seat behind. I knew I meant that. Some grounds is a different seating arrangement, and I think it's a different goalmouth lens at different grounds, and some you need a Wi-Fi, bring your own, some have got it, and I'll just turn up quite often without a component or two, but I know how to live with that now. It's not a big panic.
And so what point do you go into the stadium and get behind the goal or wherever else you're...
I'd seem to be the last one in. I don't know, people seem to get... I hear things now, like a game kicks off at 3 and there's photographers queuing outside at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I just don't understand it, unless they've got a crystal ball and saw where the goal went in, but it's just incredible to me. I don't know, I just think I still like to be getting to the ground when the fans are going, and I've often got all my cameras around my neck, but a camera taking those pictures. I got to say White Hart Lane last season quite often at an hour before the match. The steward would go, "You're late." Well, late for what? I don't feel that getting there early, looking at Facebook or another match on TV and having something to eat is kind of getting you in the frame of mind to, it's not the pre-match schedule to me. It's getting, just get a bit of an adrenaline rush going. I can remember going to Arsenal when we used to have such a thing as a season pass. They give you a pass, you didn't have to pick it up each day. And I got parked at Arsenal, went down, left my pass at home. I lived in Islington, drove home, got back, and I kind of, those days, come down the tunnel behind the teams. And I didn't think panic. I thought, oh, good, I'm still in time. And it doesn't work for some people. Some people have to have some preparation, but hit the floor running works for me, yeah.
And so when you are arriving to the game, you go behind the goal normally, correct?
Yeah.
And so how do you choose where behind the goal you sit?
Well,
how do you make that choice?
we've got pushed further and further back now. We used to be sitting as photographers right up on the goal line. We'd be literally, some photographers you'd have the white paint on your backside. We'd sit right there. We got pushed further and further back, which to me makes a picture of a goal harder and harder composition. But I think people want this celebration picture, and they usually run to the corner flag, so they sit out wide. So how does that make a goal picture? If the guy's one-on-one with the goalie, you've just made that angle really wide. If the closer you get in, and if a guy shoots wide, you've got one moment. And quite often, people call it a goal picture, and it's just a guy kicking a ball. Look at a penalty kick. A guy comes up, and it's click, and it's just this bloke kicking a ball. And the caption will say, scores for Chelsea, or it might say, misses his penalty kick. How do you know? You have to write the caption. It hasn't got the goal, the keeper, the net, the ball in it. I still get up and go behind the net for penalties. And sometimes UEFA turn around and say, you can't move, you can't do this. But get behind the net and tell the story. If it's saved, I think I didn't quite have enough on the film when Beckham blazed one over. You know, well, how can you tell that just by a picture of him kicking the ball? So, but if a goal, suppose it's a cross and a guy heads it from the penalty spot and it bounces down and the keeper dives, you're not going to get that from wide. You're not going to get that, or the picture will be very wide. If you're in, say, by the 6-yard box, you're going to get, as he heads it, if I was taking it on an old camera without a motor drive, I'd wait. I wouldn't be taking that picture. It'd be as it's bouncing, as it's coming up, he's watching it and the keeper's diving. Click. That's the picture. But now, obviously, you fire a few frames off.
So you're trying to get as much as possible. You want you want multiple people in the picture.
I'd say people say nice goal picture, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Scorer, tick. Ball, tick. Goalkeeper, tick. And number 4, I'd like a reference point. Post, net, bit of that in. Okay. And I think that's it. Doesn't need a caption then. If the goalie's looking back and it's hitting that, bulging the rigging, as we used to say, if it's going in the net and the guy's watching it all the way in, that's your goal picture there.
Yeah, it tells the story in and of itself.
Yeah.
Since obviously you don't watch the game through the lens of your camera, you're sitting by the goal line. At what point are you your ears perk up saying like, oh, I need to like get behind the lens?
Yeah, I think some people and young people actually look through the lens for 90 minutes. Wow, I don't think I could do that, and I don't think I'd get as much. You've got to get away sometimes. I can remember, now you've got the distraction of laptops and putting cards in, which has been terrible. I can remember doing a Manchester United game, European Cup match. I think it was Benfica, I'm not sure, but if I've got too long to think about a position where set piece, where's the ball going to come in? Where's it going to be? And I just literally was doing something, and the referee blew his whistle. I thought, oh my God, they're taking it. I thought there was an injury. I thought I had more time. And I think it was, what's his name? Vidic came up and bang, got to the ball, and the goal is stretching, and he's got his head to it before, and he's heading in and it got used in a few papers. And I thought, what was everyone else doing then? I don't understand it. It was so obvious where the ball was going to go. But the fact that I didn't have much time to think about it, I think works for me. I think all this football isn't a game where you draw it all out and say this will happen here. It's just maybe people looking at a guy at the far post. I just thought Vidic is on this. I'd rather do that back there and judge him. If he doesn't go to him and somebody else scores, I've missed it. Quite often, a guy comes, like when you're wide out of the corner flag, it's all in front of you. It's quite easier to see. But if I've got someone bombing along the goal line, they could get brought down, could be the penalty. But I'm thinking, if I'm on the game, I'm in the penalty area, like a good, like a fox in the box. I'm going to be in there. That's where it's going to happen. Sometimes that guy might shoot, it might go straight in the net, he might get brought down, and I might miss that. I'll live with that, but I'd rather be in there, composed for that quick deflected goal past the keeper. And I love those shots.
Yeah, so your instincts kind of take over.
Yeah, I think so. I think the game is, on the pitches now, George. It's a frenetic pace now. It really is. It's when you look at the old pictures of goalmouth incidents and things, it's they did take longer. it's unbelievable now, the pace of the game. It really has speeded up. But no, it's a lot more satisfying when you do get those pictures. But I don't, there's an industry now which doesn't really want to reward that. They'll just go with, pictures taken from 100 yards away from the opposite end of the pitch with 10 players' backs. I started this thing saying, let's have a prize, backs bingo, add up all the numbers of the shirts you can see in a goal picture. And a few people kind of started going, oh, well, my boss wants me to do it. Started taking offence. And, okay. But I remember going to Old Trafford. Arsenal played Middlesbrough in a semi-final. And it was a set piece. It was a corner free kick. The ball came in. I think it was Festa. I get mixed up. Festa, Middlesbrough defender, headed it into his own net. And as he headed it, it came my way. The goalie's looking. Every single person's looking my way as the ball goes in the net. I thought, that's nice. And lo and behold, it was used from the opposite end. The fact that my end had everyone's face meant the other end had everyone's back of their heads. And in it went. That will do. It's quite demoralising to see that's the way it's gone now. They'll use it because it's on a subscription deal and they don't want to buy it in from an agency like Offside.
I want to get back a little bit into the industry and how it's changing a little bit later. Okay. But you were around in the late 70s and 80s when there were a number of hooligans and on the field moments of fans coming on the field. Were there any moments where you felt scared, or because you're in a kind of precarious situation where you have to capture what's happening, yet you can't really protect yourself because of that?
No, I somehow. People be scared of Millwall, West Ham, these firms, but somehow when I'm in London, I feel a bit safer, and I kind of know what's going on a bit. But I went to Glasgow in 1980. Scottish Cup final, Celtic versus Rangers, and there was no warning. It was just Celtic won it in extra time 1-0, and we were just at the side. I'd left all my camera gear by the goal, and I just had one lens to do the presentation of the cup. And Celtic came down, and their fans started running on the pitch. I thought, this is going to be chaos now, but okay, we can work with that. Then all of a sudden, the Rangers fans who were leaving realised, and they all came back in the ground and over the fences, and all I looked around where my camera bag was just hundreds of mad Rangers fans just charging, and I thought, oh my God, this is a different level. And it's going from London up there to Glasgow, I was pretty scared. So my first reaction was to have to get all the way through these guys to get my camera gear, and I kind of got it together, got it in the tunnel. And it was almost all over in that time. But there was just like police charging guys on horseback with batons, and they weren't running. They were waiting till the police got near enough and thrown a cider bottle in their horses. It was just incredible. And as I was putting my gear down, some steward or someone said, "Hey, fella, what are you doing? You want to get out there? That's where all the fun is." As if it was quite amusing to them. And I kind of photographed the aftermath, but you felt you'd missed pictures, and there was, one photographer just got threatened by a guy, and he just held his lens and smacked the guy around the head with the camera, and the guy went down, and the police were just ignoring it. It was just some things I'd never seen before. One photographer actually got a bottle in the ear, and he had perforated eardrum. It was, it was the real deal. But I think I'd have been a bit wiser to it in London and got better pictures. But it was just the most scary thing I've been involved in. It was kind of almost like legendary pitch battle now. No, I think the idea was the police were blamed for the rising tensions, so the police were out of the stadium, and at that point they left them to it, and they couldn't believe their luck. And it was a riot without a doubt. People say riot now. One guy runs on the pitch, and TV cameras won't pick up on him. But it's no, that was the worst I'd ever seen.
Yeah, and did you ever find yourself in a situation like that after, or?
Yeah, well, I went to a semi-final at Highbury, and it was Everton versus Southampton, and I just probably thought on that day in 1980 I didn't really get in there, so I was just determined this time I'll get in amongst it. And I got a nice picture of a bloke throwing a punch at another guy and the police dragging people away. And then I looked round, this guy came and he was carrying his girlfriend and she had blood streaming down her face. And I was just in the zone then. I started taking pictures and he started shouting at me and another photographer. And I thought, okay, he's obviously upset. So I backed away. But it transpired this guy he'd been trying to set up supporters coaches and he took a load of money off fans. And he hadn't turned up the coach and he was wanted by these people. And that's why he didn't want his picture taken.
Oh, wow.
Because one of the papers did a follow-up on him the week after. So that was another twist to that story. But it seemed to be quite commonplace. End of the match, go on the pitch, throw a few punches, please clear them off. It seemed, when I got to Brussels in '85 at the Heysel Stadium for the Liverpool match, I was just fatigued with it and I didn't think it was newsworthy anymore. Liverpool were wearing a new Adidas kit. Wow, get that under, early evening light. That'll be good. And then I took a few pictures of fighting on the terraces. Then it was the stand curved round. It was out of my sight there, and they were still saying, "No, you're this end, you're that end," and I didn't get involved in it. It wasn't until I came out a bit later. And I don't think I've really had much experience of seeing dead bodies, but when you see about 30 of them with their relatives crying over them, I think the guys have been shooting it, getting worse, were just in that zone. But I didn't really think this is what I've come to photograph. And I just I thought, well, this game won't take place. And I was ready to go at that point. But the match started, a lot later. And after 10 minutes, you're holding your light meter up as you did those days, saying, "So what do you make the light?" It's like very, you almost feel ashamed saying that, but I think they needed the match to calm down because, I was there with an English car parked right outside the stadium. I don't know what was waiting for me out there. I thought my car would just be trashed, but that was very tense, and something you never want to see again.
Yeah, I can't even imagine all the emotion that night that all you and everyone there was feeling.
No, it was almost like, I think the match had to be played, but players were told what was going on. Then they had to kind of go on TV making out they didn't know and put themselves in that situation. I don't blame them for having to say one thing. It was very, very, it was. I think somebody at that point virtually said, "I've had enough of football." Football really took a downturn then, and people were thinking, we had these ice dance couple, whatever, Torval and Dean. They were everyone said these are a lot nicer, and people went off photographing ice skating, and all the athletics is nice. And there was a lot of talk of NFL, the football coming over here. People saying people turned their back on football, and I felt I couldn't. I was just there. Start of next season, there was like 11,000, I think, West Brom versus Oxford United, first division game, and there was no one there.
Did you when you were at Heysel with the other photographers, I don't know how much you normally mingle with them, but what was there like?
There was a split. I was kind of with a group, and we'd just taken our bibs off, thought we're going home now, and we don't really want to see any more football. And some were just stampeding over the people and coming in on their grief and taking pictures. I can't really, somebody's trying to tell me that I wasn't professional, didn't do my job. I said to him, "When did you last see a dead body? When did you last see a dead body with a relative crying over it? When did you last see that times 20? And then tell me it's a good picture." Obviously guys take pictures of all kinds of war zones and everything, but I think if you go into a war zone, there's a clue in the name. You go to a football match, it shouldn't be that. But people did what they did at that time.
To switch it to a slightly less somber topic, you mentioned in our correspondence that autofocus kind of changed the way sports photography was done in 1990. Can you just kind of explain what it was like before autofocus came about and how autofocus changed sports photography?
I think when you look back at things like the 1990 World Cup, I kind of look at it and say that was the last manual focus tournament. And I think and then like that game I mentioned before, when Arsenal won the league at Anfield in 1989, it was a night match, and to get colour pictures, manually focus on transparency film, it was, it took a bit of ability, and it was it was hit and miss even for the experienced guys. And so a young researcher now says, oh yeah, we're doing a thing on that match, can we see all your pictures? And they can't understand why there aren't 200 shots from every agency, because it's just delivered now, and it's become, I think those pictures are kind of precious a bit, but they're kind of unique, those shots. Now, if you go to a match, everyone always expects every incident within seconds. The autofocus allowed sports photography to be a commodity, to be sold. I'll sell you 100 pictures for this much. Nobody would want to enter into any subscription deals. They'd say, no, you bring your pictures in here and we'll choose the best one, because it was a bit of luck involved, but it was the skill. And you get so many people's work would be different. A guy would come in from a football magazine, he'd look on a light box, he'd know straight away which photographer. He'd name the photographer and all those sets of pictures straight away. And I think, it's lost that now. It's become able to be sold off by the pound virtually. But it doesn't mean there aren't still better photographers than there were before. But where I'd say you could go out and have a 9, 10 out of 10 game, and some guy could have a 1. Now everyone gets a 6, and somebody will pull up a great shot. The cameras allow people to take amazing pictures. Zooming straight in on a ball hits a guy in the face. You wouldn't have got those shots. There are some shots that wouldn't have worked before. But now when somebody celebrates a goal, they run towards you, and somebody's trying to edit because they've got 24 pictures of the guy celebrating a goal. I think I was one of a few guys. You'd go to a match and look around and say, who's here today? And you weren't being flash. You'd just say, yeah, he can do it. I've got opposition. Or you'd say, no opposition. And seriously, you take these tight shots of, say, Kenny Dalglish, Glenn Hoddle or Ian Rush, those guys in the 80s, and they'd be used throughout the season by the football magazines, and they paid you good money. So we were possibly ignoring the peripheral stuff of 80s football now looks amazing. The grounds they were played in. I took some of those pictures, but I didn't concentrate on, look at this ground with people standing on empty terraces, people standing in the rain with a bag of crisps. It's I didn't capture enough of that now, but that's me looking back. Why didn't I? Because I was earning good money. I was earning good money out of just capturing tight action. And I remember sitting in there with a 135, we called it, 135mm lens, and a guy sitting outside me with an 85mm, and he says, "What you got on there, son? You're a bit close, aren't you?" I said, "Well, I want to get tight to the action." He went, "You can crop in some, but you can't put it there if it's not there." He was old school, get the whole frame in. And I thought that was too easy. So we went for some dynamic pictures. And I think you look back now, if the best photographers of the 80s put their pictures out and said, "What do you think of these?" people would go, shrug their shoulders, wouldn't think it was anything special, but they were unique at the time, and that's kind of why we did it. It was a bit macho. I can get in tighter with this, but now anyone can shoot anything tight as they want. The tighter, the easier for the autofocus to pick up, really. But it doesn't allow you to compose pictures. And I can remember an England-Scotland game in '99, the playoff for the Euro 2000, and the ball popped up in the air for Paul Scholes to volley. And I was just going, and I was there on him, with him to the left of my frame, and the keeper came out, Sullivan, as Scholes shot, and I think I was the only guy who got the 3 out of the 4, the goal scorer, the keeper, and the ball, and that was still, papers were still buying a bit of stuff in then, and I did really well out that goal picture, but now it would just be Scholes kicking the ball would be enough. I find it's a shame, but that's where we got to. But I think those times. It was almost like 78. I got my first internal focusing telephoto lens, took it to Loftus Road, remember, Stan Bowles was playing, and I just thought, I'm never going to get the hang of this is impossible. And then again, it's like learning again, but after a while I thought, wow. And the results came, yeah.
And so what other big landmark moments or things changed sports photography in the last 20 years, maybe since the 90s?
I think it's changed as the game has changed. I mean, you turn around and say ostensibly the pitch marking's the same number of players, that's all the same, and the cameras at 35mm cameras, telephoto lenses, all looks the same the outside. But I think people have got lazy without a doubt. As I was saying before, you go to a magazine, somebody could tell somebody's style, their technique, and now it's as if they play safe. They've got to get the goal. And the telephoto lens we used to use for those big, tight action pictures shot vertically because, the quality of film, especially in the winter, it needed to be as good quality to make on a magazine back then or a newspaper. And now people just shoot horizontally, and when they start getting big in the frame, they'll drop that lens, pick up the short lens, and it's almost as if somebody crosses the halfway line running with the ball and they put the lens down to get the goal mouth. And it's just all very, and crop into it because the cameras are such good quality now. You can pull up fractions of a digital file. But I can see how small the frame it is because the background, the perimeter advertising's got so big now. I mean, I'll go to a match. People want to sit near the benches to get the coach. But it's not like they're up under his nose. They're shooting him still from 50, 60 yards away. But quite often that side is the side without the advertising hoardings. And I'd rather shoot the opposite side back into that as a background rather than have huge electronic distracting boards in the picture. And quite often that side is it's a bleached out background, but they don't seem to mind. They'll work on it in Photoshop. And I just want to shoot back into the light. I don't think too many. There's a few guys who've been around since the 80s will look at the light, and that might decide where they're going to sit. Other guys go, where's the visiting fans? I'll sit in front of them when they celebrate. I mean, Tottenham had a pretty rough run from the early part of this century. They were getting spanked at home quite often. Then when Tottenham, last few seasons, best defensive record, Harry Kane's banging goals in, and people still queue up outside White Hart Lane 4 hours before the match to sit in the worst lit corner of White Hart Lane where the visiting fans are and find out that Tottenham win the game. And they go there the next week. I'm going, Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, they've not had good records at White Hart Lane. For all those matches, these guys will be queuing to get in and sit there. And the light's terrible.
And so do you go by light as well?
Yeah, I'd rather sit, there's this big shadow, which is hard for TV, halfway down the pitch, running down the pitch. Why TV has to go in, out. If you're sitting in the sunshine, if you like, shooting back into the light, you've got a nice lit picture. If you're sitting with the action happening in the darkness with the sunlight, if you want silhouettes, great. If you're after arty silhouette shots, but they're not. They're actually after press pictures. And they sit there in that light, and I'm thinking, it's just... It goes against everything that you think makes a nice creative picture. It's all about getting that guy running towards them with their arms in the air, shirt over his head or whatever, which I think they could go out, start the season, get every player to run towards a few photographers with their shirts off and say, well, we don't need you at the matches, guys, because that's all you're getting. So I didn't get much support on that one, but I'll try again.
Yeah, but you'll bring back that
cause. I'll bring it back to the ballot box. No, it's I think people earning a living get what their bosses want, and they'll do a picture of a sunset on the way home, say that's nice. But it's I don't think people are getting, incidents happen, tackles, somebody elbows someone in the face, where that classic old telephoto lens would be. You look in the papers now, more and more often they're taken from screen grabs off the television. Yeah, they just, as if to say, that will service that bit of it, and we'll get you the big celebration pictures. And when somebody asked me recently for a picture of a goalkeeper, and I loved it. The guy said, not one of those where he's standing by the post, lining up his defensive wall, as if that's the only time you get goalies. A guy shoots from the edge of the box, or even further out. Every single time shoots, click, 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 and I'm thinking, that's not really a good picture. Him in a crowded penalty area, click, 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 ball goes top corner, goalie dives across, tips it over the crossbar. 99% of the photographers are on the guy's shot, and they stay with him waiting to start his celebration, his reaction. Happened to me at Anfield when Liverpool played Chelsea, semi-final, Champions League, and Luis Garcia shot. And I looked at him, I thought, why isn't he celebrating? Spun round, and Gallas, well, to my eye, cleared the ball off the goal line, but they gave a goal. Mm-hmm. And I was one of 2 photographers, I think, who got that picture, because everyone else was staying on Garcia, waiting for his celebration.
Yeah, the phantom goal. Why not? I mean, I remember watching a match on TV, and the TV camera, somebody shot, and it was obviously going to go in, and the bloke was off celebrating, but the TV camera stayed watching this painful ball roll in with the defender and the goalie running back. And to me, that's drama. And some photographer in the room, it's an earlier match, photographer goes, oh, what are they showing that for? Why didn't they show the celebration, as if that's what football's all about, not this moment here. And I despair, I really do. It's been allowed, it's become now, everyone thinks, send me pictures as if say, I want to be a sports photographer, I'll show you some of my best work. Huh? Doesn't impress me. I'll try and find something in there I like, say, send me more like this. When you see, for lack of a better word, amateur photographers or people that are not quite where they need to be, what are some of the mistakes you notice they make the most?
I think they're looking at what's already in the papers and on the websites and thinking that's where the bar is, that's the standard. And to be honest, anyone who's seen a football match and if they got hold of the gear could deliver that pretty quickly. I'd love someone to come out and say, I've only got this bit of kit, but this is what I like about football, and show me something, show me your take on what football means to you. You might not actually like football. You might say, I'm sneering at football, or I'm laughing at football, or it's just this is ridiculous. I think that would be, I'd like to see that. I mean, if somebody goes to their local team, I mean, if it's like this Saturday, there's FA Cup preliminary rounds on. You're going to get a manager there who's going to pretend he's in the Champions League final. He's going to think he's Antonio Conte and give it the big one on the touchline. Now, somebody go along to a match like this and get, it'd be better if he was overweight and wearing a too tight replica shirt. It'd be wonderful to see a set of pictures of him, but for taken close to him. And if you've got I'm just seeing this picture now, a young kid with his fingers in his ears, or his mum covering his ears up because he's swearing so much. I'd love to see that rather than just sit in the corner flag, shoot the manager from 70 yards away, shoot the goals from the other end of the pitch and the celebrations, and go, there you go, that looks like what I saw from West Brom the other night. I'd like to see someone do it their own way and really, really use that access you can get at lower grounds, because it gets less and less. But I think if you've got some photographers now who are earning a living working, if you took them back and said, right, you're covering a non-league, in the pyramid, a team right down the bottom, I don't think they go with that freedom. I think they go, this is how I cover it, and cover it the normal way, which it seems to be a box ticking standard now, which I think is a shame. I'd love to see someone come in with some mad pictures. I saw somebody on The Guardian the other day, they'd gone up to Cowden Beath, and I was instantly jealous. I thought I'd love to go and do some lower Scottish football.
Yeah, are there any photographers that you admire or that you get inspiration from?
There's some good, I tell you what, there's some good photography out there. Do you want me to name names?
Sure, why not? I mean, if someone's listening, and they want to see some great photography. I just saw a set of pictures from, where are we now? It's 2016. I think Michael Regan of Getty put his folio together. And I'd gone through I'd been working a bit more on the business, a few business changes, and I kind of thought I was losing my photography a bit, and I just looked at that and I said to him, just wonder what I've been doing all year, mate. These are wonderful. But it was the last game at Upton Park, and he went up into the flats, but he had the guy in the flat watching it on telly or something, and out the window was a stadium. Really well created picture, and he was a Leicester fan, so he had a good year, so he did some really good stuff with them. No, it was a great set of pictures, and I think it was a bit of a wake up to people saying, it doesn't always have to be the celebration. So I think that was one set of pictures which has, over the last few years, I mean, I've got guys from back in my era I thought were good. Andrew Cowie of Colour Sport, who's, people go, who? Wait, can you say that again? What's
Andrew Cowie of Colour Sport.
Okay.
He's a guy, obviously, he's still out there. He's older than me, blimey. There aren't many of them, but he's still doing it. But his stuff from the 70s and 80s was magnificent. I went to a game at Arsenal West Ham Cup tie, and it was lashing with rain, and I couldn't see through the front or back of the camera, and I just kind of got this goal out of focus, went back. Arsenal got beaten 2-0. I was soaked to the skin. My pictures were rubbish. And I just said to my boss, it was impossible to work there. It was impossible. He said the light was awful. And then about a week later, this guy Andy Cowie's pictures were in Shoot magazine, a whole sequence of that goal in colour. And he dropped it and walked out of the room. And I just went, there's another level to go to. You can't accept that. There is another level to go to. Suck it up. Take that on the chin and try and figure out how the hell did he do that. And no, it was good. It was good. And things like that happened a lot when you were younger. You kept looking at other people's work and saying, that can't be from that game, that can't be that. And there was a guy, Jerry Cranham, who shot all sports on ridiculously slow film, Kodachrome 25, when you were trying to make it in black and white, high speed black and white film. He'd be shooting it and you just didn't believe what you were seeing, really. He was a bit unique. But no, I'm glad that all my references aren't in the past. And I think that set from Regan was, kind of gave me a little wake up.
Is there anywhere online that you, like any website or, who knows, we're in the 21st century, Instagram account, or is there anywhere that you look for, good photography? I mean, for people that are enthusiasts out there that want to look at
I think
photography.
I'm more on Twitter. I mean, I just, lots of photographers just... No, I'd like to find one account where I could see the best of, or somebody said it. I mean, there was... you're always judgmental. People are in a rush to say, here's the pick of the week's pictures. You go, really? And there's other stuff that goes missing. So, no, I haven't found that one place, unfortunately. I mean, if only this country, this sports-mad country, had a sports newspaper, I think we'd be following it on there, like L'Equipe in France. But no, we just kind of... we don't really have that access. I think I look through stuff on Twitter and somebody will post something up and you'll make a nice comment. There is good stuff. There's good stuff. Some guys think they're a bit better and some guys don't really know how good they are. Some boxing stuff from a lad called Andy Coulderidge. I saw that and I thought it was excellent. And he's probably one with doesn't think he's that good, wonders why people are making a fuss. But no, somebody comes up with stuff every now and again. It's not like, the 70s, 80s were great. It's easier now. It's easier to deliver an average picture now, but to go that bit further does take a bit of thought, creativity, and just put yourself in a position where, if your heart's beating a bit quicker, you're probably onto something there. Maybe it's the fans out in the street. Do you want to take it on a long lens or do you want to get in amongst it? Your choice. But, the rewards will be there.
And so what would you advise to an aspiring photographer?
Don't get the edges rounded off by trying to be what other people want you to be. That would have happened for any era, but just have your own style and try and stick by it. And if you've got to do, I think some people probably do the work that they've got to do to get their money, the shift, and some leave it there. But I've noticed some guys actually do the other work as well, do the other pictures that they want to take. If the boss says, "Why are you sending me this for?" Well, it's take them for yourself, and don't ever lose that. You're coming in, as a just pictures you like about football. or if you haven't got a game on a Sunday and your weekend you felt, oh God, it was 6-0 to Chelsea and Costa ran my way 5 times doing the same celebration. I really want to get a bit more out of photography than this. Go over your local park on a Sunday. Go over there and get some full-on Sunday morning pictures. And don't sit by the corner flag. Just get up there, and when they're having their half-time cigarettes or whatever they're having, get in there and get those pictures. What
is the most bizarre experience from your time taking photos?
Well, one's involved a slightly long story. There was a great time when weren't many of us. Now the England team, you get 20 photographers go anywhere, Slovenia, Slovakia, but they played a friendly out in Cairo in 1986, and it wasn't the big press saying you can do this. Bobby Robson was there, and he went, "Oh, these lads have come a long way." We went to visit the pyramids, and Bobby Robson says, "There's a man there saying, want to go on camel, have a photo opportunity." And Bobby Robson went, "Yeah, I'll go up in there, give a picture for the lads." So Bobby Robson, the England manager outside the pyramids, gets on a camel. And, and Gary Lineker did as well. It's wonderful. We think that's a nice picture. I was shooting it in colour, so I was in no rush. And there's one guy from the Daily Star, John Dawes, who tried to get back to Associated Press to transmit his picture, AP in Cairo. And they said, "I'm sorry, sir, it's going to be a long wait." Why? Well, the space shuttle's just gone up there and burnt up. Everyone's died on it. It's a massive story. We're not sure we're going to get you a line. "Space shuttle? I've got Bobby Robson on camel." Sport are screaming for it, and it's just this guy's passion and not ignoring everything else, worldly events. Gary Lineker, or Bobby Robson, I think his picture on a camel was the one moment he thought the world had to wait to see. But that's someone getting so intense and so doing their job for their paper, not saying, "Oh, well, sorry, you're not going to see it tonight because the space shuttle's gone up." That wouldn't do for him. It was, but there was older stories. I mean, the guys used to, now everyone, newspaper won't even know who the photographers are. They used to come in. The Sunday Express bloke in Manchester said, "I want them come in to pick their film up on Saturday morning from the office in Manchester." Why? "I want to see what shape they're in." Sort of good old drinking culture. "Oh my God, say to you, you're off to Port Vale. You're looking all right, Old Trafford." And this one guy came in, he said, "I'm not feeling good, boss." Sent him to Crewe Alexander. And it was early in the season, a hot day, and he just fell asleep. Apparently Crewe Alexander got a penalty late in the match, and the referee's ready to take it. But wait there, went and woke the photographer up. "Don't you normally go behind the goal?" "Cheers, ref." And he went behind the goal, took his picture. I think those days are gone now, but
Yeah, I think so too.
yeah, it's a good tale. I like that, hearing that from the Manchester guys. It was. There was, seemed to be something going on, which probably, if I thought more looking back, it just you probably wouldn't believe half the things. I remember at Derby County had to lie down. The fans were right at chin level to the pitch, so the photographers had to lay down. And there was these couple of big lads from Manchester who were there. And when Derby won the league in '75, this bloke just ran out of the crowd and he just dived on this guy's back. And it really hurt the guy. And he went, "What are you doing?" He said, "Sorry, mate, you've been laying there all season. I just wanted to do that all year." And he jumped back in and everyone thought it was a great hoot. Probably broke through his vertebrae. But yeah, it just seemed to be always something odd going on. But now it's it kind of gets me down that it's so regimented. And what people do, it's da-da-da-da-da. It's, I mean, I'm not the first man to look back and think it was more fun back then, but I hope young guys are enjoying themselves doing what they're doing. But it's a kind of person who has to toe the line. There's not much room for mavericks now.
Take me through a perfect day for you. Perfect day for Mark Leech.
There wouldn't be any cameras involved, not now.
No, that's fine.
It's pretty much the other day. I was, I'm that in between the age where I'm blessed with having parents. My dad's 92, my mum's getting on 90, and I've got 3 lovely kids. And I just had to go up the other day, and my parents were a bit worried that bloke's fitting a new back door, and he was delayed. But I sat there and just talked with my parents, and I thought, oh my God. Then I actually thought, no, I'm actually enjoying this. I'm feeling really relaxed, and memories of that old house. And I did all that, and then in the evening I was going to come up here, and there's a restaurant, and a guy knew my daughter when she was 5. She's 25 now, and he says, "Oh, I don't believe you're ever going to bring her." And it was packed, and he just moved people aside, gave us this table, and he brought a bottle of champagne out and said, "Thanks for bringing her up here." And we had this lovely meal, and we just chatting with her. So I'm thinking, really, that's pretty much, that'll do for me nowadays. That's a pretty good day, I think. Both ends of the spectrum of my family. It's obviously, I didn't even get in the office that day. Maybe that's why it's a perfect day. But I think things I enjoy work-wise now. I'm enjoying days when I might go into this archive and find an old picture of Jerry Cranham's I didn't know existed before, and just on this desk here, scan it, put it up on that screen and go, wow. And hope that somebody, the other end, a buyer, is going to get that wow factor from it as well. That's where I like, and dare I say, I might find one or two of my own in there. But no, it's good to find those things. I don't think I'm going to, I'm not. Feel sorry. I don't think this season I'm going to go out and take a picture which I think is my best ever photo. It could happen. It could happen. Won't be for one to try, but I think that's pretty unlikely now. No, that's a negative thought. Let's perish that thought. I'll do it this season. I'll come out. Speak to me next August. I'll have a belter. No.
Yeah. Well, I'll follow. I'll follow up on that.
Yeah.
What if you had autobiography, what would you name it?
Wow.
If you wrote one.
That's got me on the hop, isn't it?
Yeah, let it digest for maybe a minute.
No, I don't know. I'd never thought I'd write one, I don't think. It's funny, I mean, it's not been false modesty. I don't know. It was before I did podcasts, and I said, when do people listen to this? And he said, in their cars. And I'm going, but they're going to fall asleep and crash. I don't want that on my conscience. I don't know what it would be. Tales. It would involve sports photography, I guess, because I'm probably catching up that day. I'm saying to you, perfect parent's daughter. Probably the guilt trip of spending all these years, weekends, missing parties, and being a photographer. So it'd be something on, tales from a wet touchline, or I sometimes now getting a bit more involved business-wise. I've got older. There's things to do, and it's always like work all week, 9 to 5, then go and sit in a puddle at weekends. So maybe it'd be sitting in a puddle. I don't know. I mean, I was trying to combine still playing veterans football and working, and I went and played one Sunday morning, wet pitch, tired, had a couple of beers afterwards, got to Arsenal, Chelsea, and I got cramp and my leg shot out, and the way I redistributed my weight, the stall collapsed, and I landed in a puddle looking up the sky. I thought, I'm too old for it. Something's got to go. So the veterans football went, but of course fans don't find moments like that funny. Well, I'm glad to give them something to laugh about, but no, I'm always aware that the fans are there and they've paid. I don't like people just sitting up high and as if to say, I've got to do my job.
And do you have any special requests of the audience for them to look at something, or for them to do something, or think about something?
Just try and think what you like. Don't get influenced. If someone says, hey, this is a great photo, or hey, this is a wonderful piece of writing, you decide. And do you really want to get bogged down in the Neymar? Have a little look back. Do a bit of digging around. Find some great football stories. There are plenty out there. I was just reading about a guy who played for Wigan in the 1964 FA Cup. And days with no substitutes. He had to come back on with a horrendous injury. He'd been stretchered off. He came back in and scored the winner. And they just find some great stories. But enjoy your football, but just maybe don't get all having to do the best tweet on Neymar. Go down to your Sunday morning park, and all of life will be there. You'll enjoy it.
And where can people interact with you or connect with you on social media or otherwise?
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to be on Twitter a long time, so I just picked Mark Leech was already gone, so I thought it's a hilarious pun. Lens cap. Len_scap is my Twitter feed. The Well Offside, www.welloffside.com has our images. You can view those. And we're Well Offside on Facebook as well.
Well, lovely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for asking me, Josh. Enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to it on iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, Acast, or any podcasting catching app. Want to learn more about the guests and go behind the scenes? Then go to my website, www.footballautobiographyshow.com, and subscribe to my newsletter. Also, if you like the show, or even if you hated it, leave a comment on either my Twitter page @footballautobio or my Facebook page, The Football Autobiography Show. I welcome and would appreciate any feedback from you all. Thanks for listening. Take care.